Okay, recording in progress. Good morning, everybody. As Crystal mentioned, my name is Lauren Robin. I am the academic manager for K-12 with the National Restaurant Association Solutions team. So what that means is I oversee a territory in the Central region, Ohio being one of my greatest states, but I also manage the rest of the country as well. We represent several product lines that perhaps you're familiar with. Most of you probably are very familiar with ServSafe. That is probably our most popular line of food safety programs that we offer our schools. Namely, in Ohio, you probably work a lot with the manager as well as food handler or Ohio person in charge, allergens, unconscious bias, or sexual harassment prevention. I also work closely with the ProStart program. You know, your ProStart coordinator in your state is the expert on the program. I'm the expert on the curriculum, so I do represent the Foundations of Restaurant Management and Culinary Arts books. And then finally, we work with AHLEI, which is the American Hotel Lodging Education Institute. That is like our little sister company that we acquired about 7 years ago. And that would be for our hospitality and tourism training. Sorry, I'm getting like so many beeps with people waiting to be let in the room. I'm a little distracted, so I do apologize about that. But so I would be your go-to contact for anything that's related to ServSafe, ProStart, or hospitality and tourism. Perhaps this morning you were able to attend the HTM and HTS meeting that my manager, Eric Weiss, hosted around 9 a.m. your time. And of course, if you have any questions about that or any of the programs that I'm discussing today, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions, share samples, blah, blah, blah. And then a little bit about me. I've been with the association for, wow, almost 7 years. Yeah, 7 years this summer. Before that, I've always worked in industry. I came from restaurants. I've worked in restaurants since I was 14 years old. I have a enormous love and respect for anybody that works in the industry, whether it's in the restaurant, for a destination management company, who works for a hotel. I've done them all. And I've also owned my own bakery. So this information is all near and dear to my heart because before I even worked for the association, I was familiar with most of these products. But without further ado, I'm going to get on with the show. I am going to go over the programs that we offer and the point value that they have for your students towards graduation. I believe your students need 12 points to graduate, and I've worked closely with a lot of schools on how to break it down the most efficient and effective way. So if you have questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those as well. So I'm going to go and pull up my slideshow, and I'm going to start it. Well, I guess I should probably share my screen first. Just a minute. Okay, let's share my screen. Sorry, I'm just so nervous. Share. I'm gonna do this. Okay, so are we all seeing the main screen, or are you seeing my notes screen?
We're seeing the notes slide.
The note slide?
It's in presentation mode. If you go to the display settings up at the top.
Okay, what are we seeing?
There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera off since I'm going to be looking over here at some notes, and you don't need to see my profile, although it's beautiful. But let me see if I can do that. You know what? Don't even worry about it. Oh, okay. Like I said, I am going to be talking to you today about several of our programs with ProStart, ServSafe, and AHLEI, which is the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute. All of these programs fall under the National Restaurant Association Solutions teams because we're coming up with solutions for you and your students and for industry alike. So the first certification that I'm going to be discussing with you today is the ProStart Certificate of Achievement. The ProStart Certificate of Achievement is worth 9 points towards graduation. So this is definitely the heaviest hitter in terms of points. ProStart, if you aren't familiar with it, is a 2-year program through the National Restaurant Association Education Foundation in conjunction with the Ohio Restaurant Association. So every state has their own ProStart program as well, and it is state specific in a lot of regards. But like I said, it is 2 years. So we have a 2-year curriculum. There is a level 1 and a level 2 book. Our books are called Foundations of Restaurant Management and Culinary Arts. So in order to achieve this certificate of achievement, students will need to go through both years of curriculum. There is an end of level exam at the end of each level. So they will have to take those exams and pass them. They also will need to get 400 hours of work experience. So this could either be paid or unpaid. Half of those hours can be in school. Half of them should be in an outside restaurant, golf club, movie theater, something that's dealing with the industry. If possible. We understand some places are a little bit more rural, and hopefully the EF is a little bit more understanding for those students. But students will have to get those 200 hours at least. Outside, typically 200 hours can be done in the school, so they could have a concession stand for a football game. They can do cookie and coffee trays for staff meetings, something like that. It's other than their lab hours. So students would have to pass those end of level exams, get their 400 hours of work experience, have their workplace experience validated by their employer, and then of course have a checklist of competencies approved by their instructor. Once they complete this, they would be able to obtain their certificate of achievement. And like I said before, that is worth 9 points. Next is the Hospitality and Tourism Specialist. This is through the American Hotel Lodging Education Institute. This is worth 3 points. Similar to ProStart, this is a 2-year program. However, this would be easier to finish in 1 year than ProStart would be. Instead of 2 separate books, both levels are in 1 book. The book is called Hospitality and Tourism Management. We call it HTM for short. It is aligned to the Hospitality and Tourism Specialist certification exam. And how students earn that exam is they would go through the materials in the book. They would take the year 1 and year 2 exams. Those can either be done separately or it can be done as one whole exam. It would be one entire 100-question exam, or it could be split into 2. It's not a perfect 50-50 split, but it's pretty close. Students would also have to get 100 hours of work experience, 50 of which could be done virtually. We do have a partnership with something called Knowledge Matters, which has like virtual hotel segments that a student can go ahead and work in. But the other 50 hours has to be work experience, and it's pretty open-ended. They're pretty lax about what a student can use towards their work experience. It doesn't need to just be in a hotel. It could be in anything that's hospitality or tourism related, a restaurant, like I said before, a golf course, a ski lodge, a welcome center, anything along those lines. So a student would have to pass both of those end of year exams. They would have to get their 100 hours of work experience. They would have to get their workplace validation form signed off by their employer. And then, of course, they would have to have their competency checklist checked off by their instructor as well. Technically, a teacher could use any book to prepare their students for the Hospitality and Tourism Specialist exam, but we recommend the HTM 2nd edition, Hospitality and Tourism Management 2nd edition book, to prepare your students for the exam as it is aligned correctly. Additionally, if you are using our old books, the 1st edition of Hospitality and Tourism Management Professional, or HTMP, there is a crosswalk. There is a PowerPoint presentation that goes over, like a little slide deck that we can always share with you, that goes over the information that is missed in preparing students from that 1st edition book for the HTS exams. Next, we have our ServSafe manager exam. As far as ServSafe goes, this is absolutely the most difficult, and this exam requires the most number of hours of training as well. Typically, it's about 8 to 16 hours of training for industry. So in schools, it's not unusual to either sprinkle it throughout an entire year or semester, or just do a deep dive for about 2 weeks before the students take the exam. But ServSafe Manager is worth 3 points. It is administered by the National Restaurant Association. We do understand the importance of our program in teaching and certifying responsible food service measures. We have several options to teach the course. Our newest book, and what we always recommend for academics, is called the 8th edition course book. Like I said, it was written for academics. It has pedagogy, methodology, that isn't found in the 7th edition essentials book that is meant for industry. It has captioning under our photos. It has program features and discussion questions. There's more knowledge checks, visuals, diagrams, and in the operation examples. I think a huge positive for this book are those in the operation examples. A lot of times students have never been in a restaurant before, so they have a difficult time visualizing how the concepts that they're learning in the book actually would take place in a restaurant setting. In the operation is a call out box that would show them how this would be applied in a real world situation. So it makes it a lot more applicable and understandable for them. We've also recently introduced something called the ServSafe Smart Study modules. This is powered by Amplifier. It's an adaptive learning system. We have it both for ProStart and for ServSafe, but the main purpose of the Smart Study modules for ServSafe is to increase passing rates of those manager exams. It's to cover the knowledge gaps, teach the students what they need to know in order to pass those exams. We've had tremendous success in a lot of schools across the country. We're still running some pilot programs, so if you are interested in learning more about the Smart Study modules, I'd be happy to share information with you. It's an adaptive learning. It's confidence-based. We want our students to be honest with us. What don't you know? Let's teach it to you. We want you to do well on these exams. So like I said, we like to we are constantly staying on top of regulatory requirements, not just for your state, for as a country as a whole. Our latest 8th edition course book has just been re-released to reflect the 2022 food code as well. So ServSafe Manager exam, that is worth 3 points. It's available either as an online exam or as a paper pencil exam as well. Next, we have the ServSafe Ohio Person in Charge, which is worth 2 points. The ServSafe Person in Charge course is approved by your Department of Health as meeting the requirements of the Food Protection Rule 3701-2125 of the Administrative Code. The Ohio Person in Charge, or PIC as we like to call it, is a certification in food protection, and it's required training for the designated person in charge for each shift. This is different. Ohio does things a little bit differently than the other states. The person in charge, like I just mentioned, is the person in charge of each shift. So it could be a shift leader. It doesn't necessarily, it's not going to be your head chef. It's not going to be your general manager. It could be somebody that's leading that shift, the manager for that shift. We offer it 2 different ways. One of them is online. So students would go through the course online, take the exam, and receive their Ohio Person in Charge certificate. Actually, you know what? They just have to go through an online course. There isn't an exam. Alternatively, they have a teacher-led workbook. So the students would go through the workbook with their teacher. The teacher would then sign off on them that they've gone ahead, finished the required course, and they have earned their Ohio Person in Charge. Just so you know, this is not, this would pretty much be like between the food handler and the manager exam as far as like content is concerned. And as a reminder, Ohio does not recommend the food handler, does not recognize the ServSafe food handler products. So the ServSafe food handler is something totally different from Ohio Person in Charge. Which leads me to the ServSafe food handler for 1 point. This is actually my favorite certification. Although it is not mandated in Ohio, you do get 1 point for it, but I also think this is a critically important course for our students to take before they step foot into the kitchen. If they're taking the online version, it's quick and easy. It's about 2 to 4 hours. It's an online course that they actively have to participate in. There's questions that they have to answer throughout before they can advance modules or even launch the exam. It comes with 3 exams as well, so if they did not need that extra attempt to pass the exam, it's already included for them. But the ServSafe food handler, a food handler is defined as any person who works in a restaurant or a facility that is involved with food, whether it's the preparation, the handling, the delivery, the cleaning. So it's anybody who has any rolls the silverware, anybody who's doing anything that is remotely related to the food that your customers are eating is considered a food handler. Like I said, I recommend this to everybody before they allow their students to set foot into the kitchen because it gives them such a strong understanding of food safety, which they can use to grow for their person in charge or for their manager certificate. But also, a lot of times our students have never been in a kitchen before and they don't know what you can and cannot do in terms of cross-contamination, temperature control, allergens, just the general safe flow of food. So I do strongly believe that the ServSafe food handler, which is a quick and easy win, it's a real confidence builder and feather in their cap, is a great option for all of our students. Next is the ServSafe allergen course, which is also worth 1 point. The ServSafe allergen training program is developed by the National Restaurant Association. And we have worked with experts who have direct experience with allergen risks and when it comes to serving populations sensitive to allergens. We have involved specialists in regulatory agencies, in law, in insurance, medicine, law enforcement, academia, and restaurants to create these courses. There's 2 of them. There's Allergens 2, and then there's Allergens Essentials. The one that is worth 1 point is Allergens 2, replaced our original Allergens course. This is an hour-long course. Students would watch the course and take the exam at the end. Allergens Essentials is about a half an hour. It's a great option for anybody who's like working in a restaurant, but not directly preparing the food, but should have an understanding of allergens and what to do in case there is an allergic episode with one of your customers, but it's not necessarily for the person that's preparing the food. The Essentials is not worth anything for points towards graduation, but the Allergen 2, which is the full course, is worth 1 point. It's a fantastic course, especially nowadays with food allergies being so prevalent in society. Next, we have ServSafe Workplace, also 1 point. ServSafe Workplace is a suite of training programs that focuses on creating and sustaining a safe and appropriate work environment for all employees. We have these available as either employee or manager versions. For our students, the employee versions would be the ones that are most appropriate. One of them is called Sexual Harassment Prevention for Restaurants, and this is where students would learn what sexual harassment is, how it impacts all workers, how to respond in ways that enforce a safe work environment. Like I said, I started working in restaurants when I was 14 years old, and this would have been tremendously helpful for me. I saw a lot. Things have changed a lot too, but it's not a perfect world still. If we're sending our students out into the workplace to get their hours for their certificate of achievement or their hospitality and tourism specialist, at the very least, I would say purchase one of these and watch it as a class if you're not concerned about the point value associated with it, so they know when it's appropriate to open up their mouth and that it's okay to do that too if they see something or experience something that isn't appropriate. We also have a class called Understanding Unconscious Bias in Restaurants. It's an interactive program that sheds light on the existence of unconscious bias and the impact on individuals in the workplace. We're all born with unconscious bias. We don't know it. That's why it's unconscious. That's why we have developed this class to become aware of our biases, how to approach them and overcome them in the workplace. So both the sexual harassment prevention and understanding unconscious bias in restaurants are part of ServSafe Workplace for 1 point. In addition to those programs and certification programs, we have some others that I think are worth mentioning too, although they don't contribute to the points towards graduation. We have something called Guest Service Gold, which is part of AHLEI. It is our customer service class. This is a phenomenal customer service class. We have 2 versions of it, one that is just hotel lodging focused. The other one is a more holistic view of the tourism industry. Same pillars of quality customer service, just different examples of where these situations are taking place. Why I think this is really important, we spend a lot of time preparing our students for the job function, the job role, but not necessarily how to interact with customers. This goes over what if something goes wrong, how to be an expert in your field, how to be an expert in your area, like how to turn a situation around. It's incredible. It's also a fairly quick and easy win for them. It would only take about 4 to 6 hours to go through the online course, and they would be considered a certified guest service professional. Another one worth mentioning is START, which is skills, tasks, and results training. There's 6 different job functions, and each of the START programs is a deep dive into the specific roles of that job function, like a breakfast bar attendant, front desk representative, housekeeping, maintenance worker, kitchen cook. This goes over the specific functions of that job in great detail. It offers them a certificate at the end. So technically they could get 6 certificates if they go through all 6 of them. This has specifically been, excuse me, this has been specifically successful for students with special needs as well. And then finally, Serve Success. This is an alternative certification program as well. Certified Restaurant Professionals aligns very well with the ProStart program. So if you were looking for something other than the Certificate of Achievement for your students to work towards, the Certified Restaurant Professional, it's great training material. This was developed to take the place, basically, of training programs in restaurants. So a lot of times they don't have the greatest training programs. They can't all be these huge restaurant groups. There's a lot of mom and pop organizations. So if you had a student that was going into a job interview with their certified restaurant professional certification, an employer would be able to look at them, know what their what their understanding is and what they've been trained on, and know that they're getting a quality candidate right off the bat. This also helps ensure students are committed to the industry. They're not going to necessarily put in the time commitment to gain these certificates if they didn't see a future in this career. But that is pretty much sums it up. Here is a screen with my information if you wanted to take a photo, my phone number and my email, however you want to reach me, whatever's best for you. I am very quick at getting back in emails, but I'm also in meetings a lot. So sometimes it's a little bit harder to get in touch with me over phone, but depending on the meeting, I can always go ahead and respond to the emails. But I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to answer any questions that anybody has. Keep in mind, these out-of-class experience could also be used towards your work-based learning hours as well. Thank you, Matthew. He had a comment, keep in mind, these out-of-class experience could also be used towards your work-based learning hours as well. What questions can I help answer? Anybody? Did I do that great of a job? Show of hands, who's using at least one of these programs already in their classes? Perfect. I see Susan is and a few others. Wonderful. Well, like I said, if any questions come up, or if you would like to talk a little bit more about any of these programs and the certifications associated with them, or if you wanted a sample to see yourself, to see how it might fit into your classroom, I'd be more than happy to share samples with you. And it was lovely meeting with you all this morning. I hope that your day is going great and you're getting a lot of useful information out from all of these discussions.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you. And I look forward to hopefully working with you and speaking with you all soon. If any questions just come up again, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Okay. Have a
Bye.
great day.
Thanks, everyone.